Next, a look inside Gateway Arch National Park. Native plants in the North Gateway with Ranger Dovie. The ranger kneels next to a plant in the middle of a garden.
Hi, welcome to the Gateway Arch National Park. My name is Dovie. I'm a gardener here at the park. Today we are going to do a tour of the native garden. I have highlighted about 7 plants today for us to go over with a brief description, some common garden uses, and also a fact or two about them. This is milkweed. Milkweed is a clump-forming perennial that grows from a taproot. It has narrow-shaped leaves with pointed tips and a smooth margin. Stems and leaves contain a milky sap that exudes when plant is damaged or cut. Flowering is composed of a cluster of pink umbels that attract butterflies, bees, moths seeking the floral nectar. So this makes milkweed a good source of food for the larva stage of the monarch butterfly. Milkweed usually gets to 3 to 4 feet in height with a 2 to 3 feet spread. The bloom time is usually July to August, and after the flowers bloom, a seed pod splits and a silky seed easily carried away by the wind is released. Some common garden uses for milkweed are low spot moist areas, sunny borders, streams and pond banks, and butterfly gardens. A fun fact about milkweed is milkweed sap contains a bitter tasting toxic cardiac glycoside that accumulates in the bodies of monarch caterpillars and function as a safeguard against predators. The next plant we're going to talk about is purple coneflower. Purple coneflower became one of the first wildflowers to be introduced into mainstream horticulture. It is easily grown in average dry to medium well-drained soils in full sun. This plant is tolerant of drought, heat, humidity, and poor soil. It typically grows to 2 to 5 feet in height with showy daisy-like purple coneflowers and a 1.5 to 2 feet spread. The purple coneflower sits on top a stiff stem with coarse obate leaves with a bloom time of June to August. The dead flower stems will remain erect into winter, and if the flower heads are not removed, the blackened cones may be visited by a variety of birds that feed on the seeds. Some common uses of purple coneflower are wildlife garden, prairie meadows, mass plantings around borders, and butterfly host plants. An interesting fact about purple coneflower is the roots and above ground parts were used extensively by Native Americans and traditional herbalists for immune system support, detoxification, and wound healing. So this is purple prairie clover. Purple prairie clover is easily grown in medium to well-drained soils in full sun. It originates from a deep taproot, so it's able to tolerate drought. It typically grows from 1 to 3 feet tall with a 1 to 1.5 foot spread. It features tiny purple-like flowers with cone-like heads on top a wiry stem. The bloom time is usually around July to August, and it's part of the legume family, which means it's able to fix nitrogen in the soil. Purple prairie clover is another great source for pollen and nectar for bees and butterflies. Some common garden uses for purple prairie clover are butterfly nectar plants, showy blooms, and erosion control. Purple prairie clover is a good accent plant for wildlife gardens and prairie restoration. An interesting fact about purple prairie clover, it is a member of the legume family and was used medicinally by Native Americans. The Navajos used the plant to treat pneumonia. The Moswaki used the plant to treat diarrhea, and they also made an infusion of the root to treat measles. The Chippewas used the leaves and the blooms to treat heart problems. This is blazing star. It is a tall, upright, clump-forming perennial. It typically grows 2 to 4 feet tall in cultivation, but can reach up to 6 feet in its natural habitat with a spread of 1 to 2 feet. It is usually grown in average well-drained soils in full sun. It features terminal spikes of sessile with rounded purple flower heads, appearing on top a rigid, erected, leafy flower stalk. Foliage is long and narrow. Basal leaves are almost a ½ inch wide and could reach up to 10 inches long. The blades become progressively smaller as the stalk rises. Blooms begin on top of the stalk and progress downward and can last up to 3 to 4 weeks, with a bloom time of July to August. Blazing star attracts not only butterflies and pollinators, but also songbirds and is deer resistant. Some common garden uses for blazing star are perennial borders, mass plantings, and native plant gardens, as well as prairie areas and butterfly gardens. This is goldenrod. It is easily grown in average dry to medium well-drained soils in full sun. It tolerates poor dry soils as well. It features tiny bright yellow flowers in dense erect club-shaped terminal clusters on top a stiff narrow leaf stem. Goldenrod reaches a height of 3 to 5 feet with a spread of 2 to 3 feet. The bloom time is around July to September, and you want to remove the spent flowers to encourage additional growth about that time. You may need to divide every 2 to 3 years to control the growth, and it provides a late season nectar for pollen for native bees, honeybees, butterflies, moths, and beetles. Some common garden uses for goldenrod are wild gardens, native plantings, and naturalized areas. It also provides a good late summer color for perennial beds. This is wild sweet William. Wild sweet William is a native wildflower that forms mats of foliage with stems reaching 12 to 15 inches tall, with loose clusters of purple flowers with 5 flat notched petal-like lobes that appear at the tip of the stem. The foliage is a lance-shaped to elliptic-shaped leaf. The height and the spread are both 1 foot by 1 foot, and the bloom time is around April to May. Wild sweet William not only attracts butterflies and pollinators, but also hummingbirds. It also provides early season nectar for them. And some of the common garden uses for wild sweet William are border fronts, wild gardens, and naturalized area. Also, wild sweet William is an effective shallow root cover for early spring bulbs. So this is Yarrow. Yarrow is a warm season perennial with upright flower stalks. Yarrow is tolerant to drought and commonly appears in inhospitable, disturbed areas. It grows to a height of 2 to 3 feet with a spread of 2 to 3 feet. Yarrow's foliage is a finely defined bright green with fern-like appearance, as you can see here, with tiny white flowers that appear in dense, flattened compounds. Bloom time is usually June to September. It attracts butterflies and is deer tolerant. Some common garden uses for yarrow are meadows, naturalized areas, and it is a good fresh cut and dried flower. Although yarrow is generally considered to be too weedy for borders, it can be used as a flowering ground cover for sunny, out-of-the-way areas. An interesting fact about yarrow is that it has an interesting history in herbal medicine. It has been cited most often as topical treatment for wounds, cuts, and abrasions, but also yarrow tea reduces fever.
The ranger is surrounded by native plants.
So why do you want to cultivate native plants? 1, low maintenance. Once established, native plants generally require little maintenance. They thrive in their environment, so native soil makes them more sustainable and makes amending the soil unnecessary. Also beauty. The many native plants offer beautiful showy flowers that produce an abundance of colorful fruit, seeds, and beautiful seasonal color change. Also climate. Landscaping with native plants can combat climate change by reducing your carbon footprint. Also food and shelter for animals, as well as water conservation. Because native plants are adaptable to local environmental conditions, they require less water, saving time, money, and most importantly, our natural resource water. That was just a few of the native plants we have here in our native garden at the Gateway Arch National Park. Thank you for coming out and thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon.
Logo, NPS Arrowhead. Text, Gateway Arch National Park, St. Louis, Missouri, 2020.